15 Things You Didn't Know About Howard Hughes. Welcome to Alux.com, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. Hello Aluxers, and welcome to another exciting original video presented by Alux.com. Today we're revealing some interesting and unknown facts about one of the most financially successful figures of the 20th century, Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes was born December 24, 1905 in Houston, Texas. After receiving a large inheritance in his late teens, he took off for Hollywood to start a career in the entertainment industry. He used his own wealth to finance a number of films, including Two Arabian Nights, which won him the Academy Award for Best Director of a Comedy Picture. He went on to own his own film studio, and he also had business in real estate with the purchase of a number of commercial properties, in aviation with Hughes Aircraft Company, and even in medicine with the launch of the Howard Hughes Medical Institute in Miami, Florida. Hughes was one of the most interesting and eccentric figures of the 20th century. He lived a flashy lifestyle as one of the wealthiest businessmen of his day, but his OCD and other mental health issues resulted in him living as a recluse for much of his later life. After his death in 1976, his multi-billion-dollar estate was split between his 22 cousins, and Hughes Aircraft was sold to General Motors for $5.2 billion back in 1985. If you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Alux. Hughes lived a fascinating life, and there's way more than 15 things we could tell you about him, but we've pulled together some of the most shocking and interesting facts to share with you today. Alright, let's get to it. Here are the 15 things you didn't know about Howard Hughes. Number 1. He was a millionaire by the time he was 18. Hughes' father invented a new kind of drill that revolutionized the oil industry and is still in use today. Hughes Sr. patented the new drill in 1909, and his business became incredibly successful thanks to how much easier it was to use his drill than the standard drill used at the time. Howard's mother passed away in 1922, and 2 years later, Howard Sr. passed away as well, leaving Howard Jr. the sole heir of the thriving company and his parents' wealth. The 18-year-old Hughes dropped out of Rice University, assigned others to manage the oil business, and took off for Hollywood in 1925 as a millionaire. Number 2. 4 people died in the production of his film Hell's Angels. Hughes wanted to make his 1930s film Hell's Angels a realistic depiction of World War I aerial fighting, so he hired a massive fleet of pilots, many of which actually flew in World War I. In the final major flying scene alone, 137 pilots were used. One maneuver was so dangerous that all the pilots refused to try it, so Hughes did it himself. He crashed the plane and ended up in the hospital with a fractured skull. Others weren't as fortunate. 3 pilots and a mechanic died during the production of the film. Number 3. An author served prison time for creating a fake Hughes autobiography. In 1971, publisher McGraw-Hill announced they would be publishing Hughes' autobiography. Author Clifford Irving claimed to have worked with Hughes on the book. He produced handwritten letters and other documents with Hughes' signature, which were determined to have been written by Hughes by a handwriting analysis firm. Hughes, who had not spoken publicly in years, held a press conference by phone with a group of journalists and said he had never met Irving and the book was fake. Irving, who had received a $750,000 advance, was forced to admit that the autobiography was a fake, and he served 17 months in prison. Number 4. After his death, an actress claimed they had secretly married. After Hughes died in 1976, actress Terry Moore came forward with a claim that she and Hughes had married in international waters and had never divorced. Some claim that Hughes had used fake marriages as a ruse to take advantage of young women, and although Terry Moore had married 2 other men in the time after she claimed she and Hughes had gotten married in 1949, Hughes' estate settled with her for an undisclosed amount in 1984. Number 5. He set a record for flying around the world. During the 1930s, Hughes started seriously pursuing his passion for flying. In 1932, he created the Hughes Aircraft Company, which would later become a major aerospace and defense contractor. He used his planes to set a series of aviation records, the most notable of which was his record for circumnavigating the globe in 3 days, 19 hours, and 17 minutes. When he returned from the record-breaking flight, he was celebrated as a hero and even given a ticker tape parade in New York City. His record was broken about 2 years later. Number 6. He killed a pedestrian. In July of 1936, when Hughes was 30, he struck and killed a pedestrian in Los Angeles. A witness said that Hughes had been driving erratically and that the pedestrian was on the side of the road waiting at a bus stop. Hughes was booked on suspicion of negligent homicide. A doctor determined he was sober, although it was noted that he had been drinking. The following day, the witness suddenly changed their story to say that the pedestrian had actually stepped in front of the car. The passenger who was in the car with Hughes, Nancy Bailey, corroborated the story. 5 days after the pedestrian was killed, it was determined that Hughes was not at fault for the death. Hughes told reporters, "I was driving slowly and a man stepped out of the darkness in front of me." Number 7. Hughes was officially married twice. I say officially because, as mentioned earlier, Hughes reportedly used to trick women with fake marriages. Hughes was first married in 1925 at the age of 19 to Ella Botts Rice, but they divorced 4 years later, possibly due to his new Hollywood lifestyle. He also married actress Jean Peters in 1957, but they later divorced in 1971, just 5 years before Howard's death. Hughes was also romantically linked with a number of high-profile actresses, including Katharine Hepburn, Ginger Rogers, Rita Hayworth, Bette Davis, and Ava Gardner. Number 8. Hughes investigated the political beliefs of his employees. Hughes purchased a struggling Hollywood studio named RKO in 1948. Within weeks of the purchase, he had fired 3/4 of the staff and shut down production for 6 months while he investigated the political beliefs of the remaining employees. If he had any suspicions that an employee had communist leanings, he would dismiss them immediately. The other stockholders sued him multiple times for how he was handling the company, so he ended up just buying them out at a cost of $24 million by 1954. 6 months later, he sold the company to General Tire and Rubber Company for $25 million. Number 9. He offered Elizabeth Taylor $1 million to marry him. In the mid-1950s, Howard became infatuated with actress Elizabeth Taylor, even though he didn't really know her personally. He asked his lawyer to send a proposal to Elizabeth's mother with an offer of up to $1 million if Elizabeth agreed to marry him. Taylor was not interested, although she certainly wasn't against marriage. She was married 8 times in her 79 years of life. Number 10. Tony Stark was based on Howard Hughes. When Stan Lee was creating Iron Man in 1963, he modeled Tony Stark after Hughes' lavish wealth and early lifestyle. If you want to find out some more interesting facts about Marvel, click on the upper right-hand corner to watch our video of 15 things you didn't know about Marvel. Number 11. He helped invent the modern hospital bed. After one of his near-fatal plane crashes, Hughes had to spend some time in the hospital. He found that the bed was very uncomfortable, and this led him to design a hospital bed that would alleviate the pain caused by burn injuries specifically. His design included hot and cold running water. It was built in 6 sections and was operated by 30 electric motors with push-button adjustments. He never got to create the bed himself, but his design was used as the prototype for the modern hospital bed we know today. Number 12. He wore tissue boxes as shoes while in seclusion. In Hughes' later years, he lived almost exclusively in seclusion in various hotels in Las Vegas, Managua, Nicaragua, the Bahamas, London, Beverly Hills, and a few other cities. Some of his strange behaviors while living as a recluse include keeping his urine in jars in his room, instructing his staff not to look at him, watching the same movie up to 150 times in a row, and wearing tissue boxes as shoes. He was an extreme germaphobe and also had many habits related to his severe OCD. Number 13. Hughes was 90 pounds at the time of his death. Hughes died on an airplane April 5, 1976, while flying from Mexico to a hospital in Houston, Texas. He was fairly unrecognizable at the time of his death, with long hair, an overgrown beard, and incredibly long finger and toenails. The 6'4" Hughes was also just 90 pounds upon his death. The FBI had to use fingerprint analysis to conclusively identify the body. It was concluded that Hughes died of kidney failure. He is buried next to his parents in Houston, Texas. Number 14. He killed 2 people in a plane crash. In 1943, Hughes spent about a month test flying his Sikorsky S-43 amphibian aircraft. In May 1943, he took a test flight with actress Ava Gardner, 2 CAA aviation inspectors, and 2 of his employees. After dropping off Gardner in Las Vegas, Hughes crashed the plane into Lake Mead, killing CAA inspector Cecil Klein and his employee Richard Felt. Hughes also suffered a severe gash on his head. He paid divers $100,000 to retrieve the aircraft and then spent more than $500,000 restoring it. Number 15. His net worth was $1.5 billion upon his death. Although he did inherit millions of dollars from his father's business, he earned the majority of his wealth from his other business ventures. By the time of his death in 1976, he had amassed a fortune of $1.5 billion, which is about $6.45 billion at today's valuation. His wealth, along with his business and real estate, meant that he had left behind a $2.5 billion estate upon his death, with no will to help determine how the money should be allocated. Now that you've learned some more about Howard Hughes, we'd like to know, which of these facts did you find most surprising? Let us know down in the comments. Still here? Here's a bonus fact just for you. Hughes was known for buying up properties in Las Vegas. In November 1966, he started staying at the Desert Inn. After a couple of months, when the hotel staff asked him to leave, rather than checking out, he bought the hotel. He also bought several other hotels, including the Silver Slipper Casino, which he bought for the sole purpose of removing its trademark neon slipper. The bright slipper was visible from Hughes' bedroom, and based on his actions, we're assuming it was keeping him up at night. Thank you for spending some time with us, Aluxer. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. If you want more, we handpicked these videos you might enjoy, or head over to Alux.com for the best in fine living content on the planet. Be a part of the largest community of luxury enthusiasts in the world and tell your story.